Try again. Okay, so let's move on to talking about the application process, because I think it's really valuable to have an idea about what happens from the day you apply all the way through to the day you get on the plane, I suppose, and how we match you with camps and what to expect. And so, yeah, if you're thinking about applying, like, you've got a bit of an understanding about what happens on our side, what happens on your side, kind of your experiences and your journey. But from the second that you press the apply button on the Skilled Summers website, what to expect, really.
Well, although we ended up in the same location, I reckon our process was a bit different.
Completely different. Yeah.
So I was like one of the early birds as well. So I think I got a bit of a discount off my admission fees. Sorry to rub that in your face. Yeah, you definitely didn't get that one. No, but because I've been to a camp before and I was looking for something new, somewhere to go to America, somewhere which more tailored to me. Found Skilled Summers on like a blog or something, a comparison website. So, went through the website, clicked apply, and then within like 2 days I got a WhatsApp message off you, and you're just guiding me through the like whole process application. But I know, Harry, you've had a bit of a different experience.
Yeah.
You thought it was a scam at first.
Yeah, so admittedly I was a bit hesitant, but I got an email to the club I'm at uni. We got an email to the society email, and kind of said, like, take your skills, do this, go abroad. I can't remember exactly what it said, but I remember seeing a nice picture of a lake and a tennis court and thought, that's a bit of me. So I hesitantly shot an email back thinking it's a bit random that we just got it out of the blue. I shot an email back, and I remember getting the email back from, is it Georgia? I got an email back in something like 2 minutes from sending a, hi, is there a chance of getting a bit more information? The second I pressed send, it was always like ding, it'd come back again. I thought it was an automatic response, but no, it wasn't. I
just want to give Georgia the biggest shout out. Georgia has been the absolute rock of Skilled Summers. She's incredible, and when whoever you are, whatever point you'll apply, you'll speak with Georgia, and she is a legend. So she can't be with us here today, but honestly, she's one of the best.
Very, very quickly, and said, well, we can set you up with an interview. Gave me a breakdown of the different admission fees and said, here's, I think it was your number, give Kat a text. And I was like, a text? I was like, what do you mean? What, just WhatsApp?
Yeah.
So I just sent you a text on WhatsApp, and then got the ball rolling, and it was just very much from there, because mine was very late. I remember now the email was headed like last chance. It was very, very last minute. I think it was late April, and then I flew out early June. So it was probably one of the last people that actually went through for that year. But I got back, and obviously where it was last minute, Kat said, right, we've got to get the ball rolling soon. And within, from 8 days from when I replied to that email, I was placed at Frenchwoods, had my interview with Nigel, all agreed. Just in 8 days, everything sorted, visa, everything. So
speed ran it, didn't you?
Yeah, it was kind of beat the clock.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I mean, applications are open now for next year. So in terms of the timeline, the earlier you apply, the better, because more vacancies are obviously available. You're going to have more time to make your selections. I've got more time to speak to the camps and say, okay, well, I've got horse riding positions in 4 different camps. Have a research, figure out what you want to do. We always will encourage you to have your top pick. So if you come back to me and say, I've looked at all the websites, I've looked at all the reviews, I'd like to speak with Chippendale first, then we would set that interview up. And then if that wasn't successful or the placement wasn't there, then obviously we'd move you on to a second choice as well. But I suppose we're jumping forward a little bit, but in terms of what happens, so applications are open now for 2024. If you're listening to this in another year, they'll still be open in the summer for the following year. But what should happen is that you will go to the Skilled Summers website, you'll fill in the application form. It's not the full application form, it's just a brief description of who you are. And then you'll have a screening call with a member of the team. So that's either me, it's going to be Georgia, it'll be Bart moving forward into next season. And that screening call, it shouldn't be viewed as an interview. It's not about that. It's about us just touching base with you and just answering any questions that you have, giving you a bit of an idea about the process, where you might fit, and giving you some tips on how to fill in the application form.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important, is having a good understanding of how to write that form in a way that's going to be appealing to the camps that we're going to work with. So after that initial screening call, we will invite you to formally apply, as long as obviously there's no restrictions. One of the main things we struggle with is date availability. So being able to travel within the first 2 weeks of June is absolutely key, and you have to do a full 9-week contract. We've got one camp that does do shorter contracts, but the vast majority of them, especially the premium camps, need you available for staff training, which generally starts around the second week of June, usually between the 10th and the 16th. And there's no flexibility on that. Like, the camps need you there. You've got to do safeguarding training. You might be doing lifeguard training, ropes training, whatever. So exams. The amount of times I have to speak to people and say, like, I can't fly out because I've got an exam. We can't really do much about that.
Well, I think it's important to touch that was obviously a key issue for me. I was in my second year of uni and I had my end of year exams.
Yeah.
And I flew out on the 5th. I had an exam on the 6th, 8th, 10th, and then the following Monday, I think it was. So I remember saying to you, like, do you think will the directors, I'll go out and I can do them out there, but will they give me the time to do them? And if you're doing online exams, the directors seem pretty chill. I mean, Nigel basically told me, like, don't worry about this week. Here's an office, do as much revision as you want, work if you want, do whatever you want, just do the exams, like, focus on them. So I did all my exams for second year in America. The first one was a bit difficult, being jet lagged, but other than that, it was absolutely fine. So I ended up doing okay.
Yeah, I think you were lucky with that flexibility. I think some camps aren't that flexible. The other thing as well, which is a question I get asked all the time, is graduation. Oh, I can't go because I'm graduating. Can I fly back and Can I fly, back home to graduate and go back to camp? And no, I missed my graduation 4 years in a row because of camp, and I still ended up having a ceremony. I still went. I still got, people get really, really caught up on, I need to graduate with, my friends that I went to university with, and fair enough. If that's, what you really want to do, then, you need to look at camp another year. But I think you need to compare the one day of graduation versus, the most incredible. So that, again, it's just those dates, 10th to the 16th of June, usually to mid-August. And then obviously you've got your 30-day travel period. There are longer contracts for people that do want that. I think the earliest you can fly out and start a contract is the 1st of May. I went out on the 5th. I think you went out really early as well. And then the latest you can stay till is the 30th of September. So that's the long contracts. In terms of the payments as well, it goes, you get your standard 9-week salary, and then any additional day you'll get paid additionally on top of that as well. So you are compensated for that. But back to the application process. So you'll have that initial screening call with one of the team. We'll invite you to apply, and then you will fill in the application form. So it needs to, have some weight to it. You need to spend a bit of time on it. It's talking about your education and background, the reasons why you want to go to camp, and then you've got a skill section. So what we'd recommend for somebody that's very clear on what they want to do. So for me, I want to be a horse rider. I didn't want to do anything else. All my 3 skills were horse riding related. I had English riding, jumping, stable management, and that's great. And you need to be writing it, kind of, imagine the person interviewing you doesn't really know much about horse riding. So you really need to explain what you're capable of doing personally. So for me, I've ridden, all my life. I've competed at this level. I've kind of taken part in these different styles of riding. And then you need a section on what you're able to teach or coach. So with the horse riding, I hadn't really got any professional experience of teaching whatsoever. It had just been a case of, taught the neighbour's kid or like the girls at the stables or anything like that. But because I was a competent horse rider myself, I was able to kind of, coach. I mean, the kids I was teaching, I think I had one girl who was able to canter. The rest of them, it was like walk and trot for beginners. So it was how, in your application, how I would lead a beginner's lesson Making sure focuses on safety and, making sure the kids are aware of the dangers and then like correcting position. And it's that. So apply that to whatever sport you're putting on there. So football, for example, will be a prime example for a lot of the applicants coming through from England, especially anyone who's grown up in football. But it's a case of, right, what level are you playing at? How often do you train? You're playing for your local team? Are you playing for uni? Have you had kind of any semi-professional trials? Do you hold any coaching qualifications? And then you need to talk about what you've been doing with the kids. You've been teaching the under-11 side, once a week on a Saturday. You just saying, well, I play for my local football pub team once a week. You're going up against thousands of applicants, not just from Skilled Summers, from all around the world, from all these different agencies. So it needs to kind of, really stand out
from the crowd.
Like, in that,
I mean, I imagine with it's the same with horse riding. Yours was a bit more like niche, I suppose. Not a lot of people backflip around and stuff.
Exactly.
For me, obviously, football, I knew that most people that go for it are probably one of their skills is going to be football related, because England, it's the kind of
football
lifeblood of the country, isn't it? But it was finding a way of making sure that my applicant wasn't just, I've played for a while. It's like you had to say, I played at this level, I've coached my under-18s team at the age of 19, I've got these qualifications. You've got to show that you're not just a player. You've got to show that you actually have some sort of
weight behind
being able to, why are you the reason that these kids that are paying, in some cases, ridiculous amounts of money to come to these camps, why are you the person that will give them the best experience? Not you're going to turn up and be able to score a free kick. It's like you've got to be able to translate your skills into it. That's it.
I think, like, if you compare both our applications, like, you have a lot of experience in coaching. I just have experience in sports. And like the variety of different sports I was doing, I was like in all these different clubs at university as well. I got placed as a rock climbing instructor as well. I've done it as a hobby, but once I was there, I went through a week of rock climbing training, and by the end of it, got like certified like rock climbing facilitator, which I still put on my CV today, especially.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've got a lot of camps that will do lifeguard training. So if you don't currently have the certificate, but you're a strong swimmer and you're willing to do that, and you've got the time to be able to go out to camp, because usually lifeguard training starts the week before, so they've obviously got time to train you. That's an option as well. Rock climbing, I went out pre-camp and we had school kids come in for a week, and they trained me on the rock climbing wall so I could belay the kids up. So yeah, there's a lot of training that does go on at camp. But I suppose for the general counsellors and what makes a good general counsellor application, you might not necessarily have one skill that you want to teach or one skill that you're particularly qualified in. But what I tend to talk to people about is, okay, well, let's think about categories. Are you like outdoorsy? Do you like kind of the hiking, camping, climbing, biking? Are you that type of person? If so, great. Pick an outdoor skill and fill that in. You can include your swimming in there as well. Are you like creative? Do you like the arts and crafts? If so, great. Tell us about any sort of painting, crafting, photography, anything like that can form like an arts and crafts type category. And then the third one is sports. Do you enjoy your sports? Even if you're not teaching them, are you somebody that enjoys playing tennis? Do you enjoy a little bit of this? What do you do personally? Because that shows then, if you've got an application form that's right, this person likes the outdoors, bit of arts and crafts, bit of sport, they're a good general all-round candidate, they like kids. That's the type of thing that makes a good general camp counsellor. And then that role is a bit of, you are doing absolutely everything. You'll have a different activity every day. You'll just get stuck in. And a lot of people really thrive off that variety and doing different things. Like Harry said earlier, you might be doing something you've never really coached before, but the kids don't know that. You just kind of get stuck in and go alongside it. But after you filled in this application form, then we will schedule your interview. So that will, most of the time I've interviewed probably 95% of all our applicants, and that's because I do the placements. So I've got a really good idea by interviewing them who I think is going to be a good fit for what camp. So that interview, again, it's nothing to be nervous about. It's a chance for us to really get to know you on a personal level, find out a little bit about you. I tend to kind of start off with kind of personal questions about why you want to go to camp and try and get that the motivations behind it. What's in it for you? What are you going to get out of it? How you're bringing your culture to camp as well. I think it's a cultural exchange program. So what are the kids going to learn from you about England or from about Ghana or from wherever? So that's really important, of how you're going to teach them something. And then we talk about the skills a little bit more in detail. So we find out, if there's any improvements to be made on the application, we can suggest that as well. And then the third kind of section, I tend to ask maybe some problem solving scenarios. So things that typically crop up at camp will be like homesickness. It'll be, a kid that's maybe not really enjoying it, or there might be some bullying or something that goes alongside, or there's a problem with a co-counsellor. What would you do if a co-counsellor came back under the influence, or you found them smoking around the back of the... So those are the type of things that I might ask, things that might happen at camp. And then, we have a bit of a chat about what I might think is suggestions in terms of camps that might have that availability. I'll give you some options to research and come back to me. And so the earlier you can apply, the better options we can give you. But we will also not kind of force you into a placement and say, right, this is a placement, take it or leave it. It's definitely not about that. It's a two-way process. You will have the interview with the camp and they're interviewing you, but you also should be interviewing them, especially again, we're looking for premium applicants. We're looking for people that should have 4 or 5 different job offers because, your skills are in demand. You need to be asking the camps as well, why should I be working at your camp? What benefits am I going to have from working there? And tell me a little bit about, your ethos behind camp, and, because these are going to be, there's different experiences to be had at these, the different things. So ideally you would have your first choice. You would interview with your first choice. If they offered you the position, that should hopefully be your placement. Brilliant. But I'm completely open for people to have different interviews. So I did have an amazing girl who had special needs experience and wanted to work at a special needs camp, but she was also an instructor. I can't remember what in now, but she was a sports instructor. So she had an interview with a special needs camp, and she also had an interview with a traditional sports camp because she wanted to see the differences. And then she had an option. I don't think there's much value in interviewing with 2 premium camps that are very, very similar, because you're going to have an amazing experience at either one. But if you definitely want that, I'm happy to have an interview with an underprivileged camp because I want to be a social worker and I think it might be valuable to my CV, or, versus, your typical traditional camp that are going to have very privileged children in them as well. There's that to consider. It's like maybe the candidates, the children, that they're there as well. So for anyone that wants to work as a teacher or in social work or nurses or anything like that wants to get that exposure with the kids working in special needs or underprivileged camps, that's a really good opportunity for that. But in terms of that's how the application process should work. So you should apply, you have a little screening call with Bart or somebody else from the team, interview with me, interview with the camp, and then you will kind of be offered the position. Usually as well, as another point, is that camps will tend to offer you the position over the phone call, or they may say, you know what, I've got another interview with another person with a similar skill set, I'll interview them and I'll give you a response. They don't tend to leave you hanging. We don't encourage that either. We say, this person needs a response within 24 hours, and then we can make a decision based from that. But I do try and get people placed within a couple of weeks. Harry was saying 8 days. I think my record was about 8 hours. There's a quad biking guy that we I knew there was a quad biking vacancy. I was like, Justin, here's your guy. He's like, I'll call him. Interviewed him the same day, and he got hired. So if you're applying early September time, a lot of the camps don't really start properly hiring until later on in the year for more general positions, but something very specific. Easily, you're interviewed and hired September, October. But I would say within 4 weeks would be the maximum, I'd imagine, of you having to wait, but not to have the interviews. I think having the interviews is quite a quick thing. You should expect to have an interview within, I'd say, a week of your application being ready, for sure. And then there's a video side of things as well that we've not touched on. Videos aren't mandatory, but I would highly recommend them because, again, camps really like to see people's kind of introductions, their creativity, their passions for things. You don't have to be like Steven Spielberg and making, an epic docuseries.
45-minute sort of trailer. Yeah.
But I suppose as well, videos can have I've seen bad videos of people just kind of, sat on their bed talking down to the camera. You're better off not having one if that's going to be the case. For me, I filmed it literally on the back of the horse. I was like, here I am, here's my horse, I want to go to camp. And that was fine. So yeah, we would encourage that to go alongside your application as well. But say it's not essential. And most of the time, once we've interviewed you and we know that you're going to be a good fit for wherever, camps will chat to you anyway.
I think the video, I know my video, I did one, but like you said, not quite Steven Spielberg, so it was windy, you couldn't really hear what I was saying, and I just did a few trick shots with different sports that I play. I ended up getting rid of it because within that time you then offered me an interview with Nigel, so I was like, well, I've already got the interview now. So, but I imagine if you're applying and you haven't got maybe the most experience in terms of working with kids, but you've got the skill set, that could be a good way to show off your sort of persona and who you are as a person.
It's hard to show that on paper.
Yeah, so
in
video,
a text box, you're not going to find out who I am. On a video, I could be myself a lot more.
That's exactly why we ask for them. I think the final point I would like to make in terms of if you are applying, it's about committing to this program as well. Like the amount of people that just ghost us like a bad partner. They'll get so far, they'll have an interview, they'll pay their second stage fee, and then they just disappear or they block you. I mean, you're an adult, you're applying for a program, I can take rejection. But instead of us chasing you around, being like, what's going on? And you just not giving us, just let us know. Obviously plans do change, but you've also got to be mindful of camp as well. So we've had situations where camps haven't been able to get hold of people because they've just been too scared or not been, not wanted to let them down, but just blocked them, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, that's the worst thing you could do, really. Just cut off the chain of communication, because nobody knows what they're doing. Like the camp doesn't know if you're coming or not. They don't know.
We've already said today it's a personal experience. You guys do an amazing job at making sure that you're not just a number on a piece of paper. You are a person, but you've got. If I had messaged you a couple of days before I went, look, I'm really not sure anymore, you'd give me every bit of advice to help me make my decision, but I cannot imagine it would have been the end of the world. Just communicate fully. These two next year, yourself, you'll be taking some interviews and stuff. I imagine you'll be a point of contact. The people that get involved with Skilled Summers, whether it be through working for you guys or being a counsellor, going to camp, like you said, you take premium applicants, you take people that will give you the respect that you deserve, but you've got to show it back. Just communicate, just say, if you've got any worries, let someone know and speak to someone that's been in the position that you were. You were in the position last year, I was in the position last year, you've been to camp several times, you've been doing this for the last, 10 years?
10 years.
10 years. Just, there's people that can answer the questions and the worries that you've got, so you've got to communicate fully.
Yeah. But you're 100% right. And again, it's in terms of the application process, you need to start it, commit to it, and roll with it, especially if you're applying later. If you're applying in January, you're against the clock. And I've had people apply in January and then don't get their stuff together until March. And at that point, you're running out of options. You're applying in March and April, 80% of the vacancies are gone. And it's a very quick turnaround. And I've had people apply 5 or 6 days, after applications have closed in the end of May, and we've managed to turn it around for them. But especially with the embassy appointments that we'll talk about later, it's that you're really putting yourself at risk of not being able to get the visa. And we've had a girl this year, sadly a girl from Spain, who left it and messed around for that long that by the time she actually got her DS 2019, it was too late. She couldn't get an embassy appointment. So it's about just being on the ball. And if you're going to commit to it, getting things done by the deadline and getting your placement through the door. So hopefully that sums up a little bit more about the application process, what we expect, the steps. If you do want to apply, the links on the website, skilledsummers.co.uk. And we do aim to get in touch with people literally within 24 hours, you know, without the weekends. But even then, like we're not a company that's bound by like the 9 to 5 hours. Like my personal WhatsApp's always available to all of my applicants. You know, I'll text people back at midnight. I mean, it's not the promised thing, but you know, we are much more responsive. It's not just a case of we'll only reply within working hours. It's definitely not that.
It's not like a request form either.
Yeah, here's a link. It's open 9 to 5 Monday to Thursday.
Yeah.
sit in a waiting line, listen to some dodgy music. No, it's proper ways to go about it.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much for helping discuss that with us today.
Yeah, thank you.